Chapter 4799. They were all heartless people. None of their family Tang factories welcomed them. I heard that the Yao family is in a lot of trouble. Everything in the house has been taken away, including the wash basin. At night, Chun Yufan ate with a bowl in her hand. Yao Wenwen has some ideas, but she doesn't have much experience and is heartless. The Yao family can forget about raising their head in the village in the future, Tang Shi said. Oh right, they should be opening a treatment plant soon. I'm going to buy it. You can buy it, but don't be a sucker. Chun Yufan reminded him. Those people are heartless. If they knew it was you, they would definitely ask for a high price. Second brother, do as you see fit. If the price is too high, forget it. Second brother probably won't ask for a high price. He might even lower the price. Jin Hung said this because he had some understanding of Tang Shi. Tang Shi was more tolerant of people who he approved of and thought highly of. However, he was the harshest profiteer for people who were not pleasing to his eyes. Tang Shi smiled and said, Jin Hung is right. Mom, don't worry. Not everyone can take advantage of me. I gave the other people in the village a discount because everyone has a good relationship. It's mutually beneficial and not a loss. But for those people, forget it. Seeing this, Chun Yufan was relieved. Now that Yao Wenwen asked if some people in the village were scolding her, the Yao family also scolded her. Wherever they went, they scolded her for giving birth to a good-for-nothing. When the He family found out about this, they were very glad. Half a month later, Tang Shi bought the factory. Those people did ask for a lot at first, but later on, Tang Shi did not want to take over, which made them very anxious. When they heard that Tang Shi was going to apply for a land to build a new factory, they panicked and quickly sold it at a low price to recover some money. This also made everyone understand that Tang Shi was not an honest person. He also opened his factory in the county. From the day he opened, he had regular customers. He also observed that those who went in would more or less buy something, even if it was a small candy. He was already paying attention to the other end of the county town and planned to open another one there. The county town was so big that he had to have 2 shops to occupy the market. His plan was to move to the city a year later and gradually expand. As long as he had the money, he would open one. He didn't want to think about anything else now. As long as he could open a business in every city and county in the country, it would be enough to tire him out for a long time. Tangwa smiled as she watched He walk towards another path step by step. His business seemed to be bigger than she remembered. Of course I'm happy. He's future achievements will be extraordinary. He will be more powerful than in his previous life. If Yao Wenwen knew about this, she would be furious. Besides, even if Yao Wenwen doesn't know, I can just sit at home and wait for my share of the money. Isn't that great? System, Chun Yufan had no intention of expanding her factory, but Tang Shi had opened several factories. At first, he opened a feed factory and asked CLA to open the market for poultry. Many people saw that they could make so much money from selling poultry and were tempted. Under Tang Shi's encouragement, many people started to raise poultry and buy feed from his factory. Some raised ducks, some raised rabbits, some raised chickens, geese, pigeons. Later, some people raised pigs, sheep, and cows. All the feed they needed was bought from Tang Shi's factory. The price was fair, and they could rest assured. Tang Shi arranged for his people to plant vegetables. The few classmates introduced to him by Jin Hong helped a lot. All kinds of greenhouse vegetables and off-season vegetables were introduced to the market by them. He's factory had meat, eggs, and vegetables. All the meat, eggs, and vegetables were bought from here. The price was fair, and they could rest assured. Chapter 4800. Seeing this, Tang Shi arranged for someone to inspect the soil to see if there was a suitable place to grow fruits. He heard Tang Shi's plan. We have a place to grow local fruits in the future. Tanghua and Jin Hong were already married. They still lived in the village, but their house had been renovated. Nowadays, every family, except for a few, was very rich. Everyone was a boss. In addition, whenever they were free, they would donate money to the village. Now, the village's account had so much money that it was impossible to spend it all. The people in the village admired Tang Shi the most. Because of his leadership, everyone could become rich. The person who surprised them the most was He, who would have thought that a loafer like him would have so many people coming to interview him. asking him how he got to this point. Although He opened many supermarkets all over the country, he really didn't become the richest man in the province. In terms of who had the most assets, it was Tang Shi. When someone wanted to start a business and didn't have enough funds, he invested a little. Jin Heng and Tang Gua also invested a little. The richest person was Tang Shi. Because their hometown was developing well, Tang Yu and Jiang Qian didn't come back. However, the development of these years couldn't be done without them. Many of the customers in the village were also helped by them. Some of the needed equipment were also arranged by them. The old teachers in the school had retired. Originally, the principal wanted Tang Gua to take over, but she didn't want to. After working hard for so many years, she just wanted to start salting. Therefore, this responsibility fell on Jin Heng's shoulders. Shangnan Primary School was already very big and luxurious. Even some parents in the county wanted to send their children to this school. Unlike many years ago, when there was a shortage of teachers, the teachers here were now the most powerful in the entire county. Didn't you say that this is a village? A pot-bellied man turned his head and asked a woman with exquisite makeup beside him. Why doesn't it look like it? There are villas here, and they are even more luxurious than ours. The environment looks good. Didn't you say that there's a factory here? If there's a factory, why is the river so clean? The man asked again. Yao Wenwen was a little nervous. Ever since the car drove in, she didn't feel good. Suddenly, she didn't want to go back. Maybe I took the wrong path? Let's find a hotel to stay in and ask around. How could the changes here be so great? Yao Wenwen shook her head vigorously. Impossible, he must have gone the wrong way. She had only been away for 6 years. In 6 years, this place was like a vacation villa. It was unbelievable. With so many factories in the village, the environment must not be good. He must have taken a wrong turn. Her palms were sweaty. In her previous life, even with Jiang Qian's help, the roads in the village were only slightly better. It was impossible for there to be such a big change. Yao Wenwen wanted to leave, but the man beside her was very interested in this place. This place looks very interesting. It seems to have everything. I like the villa here too. Chapter 4801. As the car drove in, Yao Wenwen saw familiar road signs such as Shangnan Primary School, Shanghe Village, and Shihe Village. She clenched her fists tightly, and her body began to break out in cold sweat. She saw the cars passing by, and each one was no worse than the one she was in now. She had originally come back to show off and teach the family Tang and the He family a lesson. As for the matter of her running away with the money, she was no longer the Yao Wenwen of the past, but the wife of the big boss. Those people used to resent her. If they wanted to leave, they would have to kneel down and lick her boots. In this day and age, whoever had milk was their mother. If they were hungry, they would obediently ask for food. There was no grudge that money could not resolve. Yao Wenwen could no longer recognize this place, nor could she point the way. However, the man beside her was very interested. When he encountered someone, he asked the driver to stop at the side and rolled down the window to ask the person, "You're not going the wrong way. Shanghe Village is right ahead." The enthusiastic villager and the man pointed the way. "You're the boss from outside, right? Here, follow this road, go straight, and turn around. When the time comes, you'll see a sign. You can find whichever house you want to find on that sign." Because there would be a lot of people coming to the village, to avoid the trouble of asking for directions every time, there was a sign at the entrance of the village with the address of every household on it. The car continued to move. Sure enough, after a while they saw a sign. At the same time, there was a parking lot in this place. Looking at the roadblock, it indicated that their car could not continue to drive in, so they could only get out and walk. "Zhuchong, are we in the wrong place?" After Yao Wenwen got out of the car, she looked at the familiar names on the sign and felt more and more nervous. It had only been 6 years. How could her village have changed so much in such a short time? Even in another 10 or 20 years, there would not be such a village in the country. At least, she had never heard of it. Could it be that what she had done had caused such a big change here? If she had known this would happen, she would not have married He Qi. She would have come out earlier to find this man. No, she would have taken advantage of the fact that she was younger at that time and was familiar with some bosses in her previous life to find a better one. She was too short-sighted and only stared at the village. It was too late to regret. Yao Wenwen only wanted to persuade Zhu Chang to go back. However, Zhu Chang was obviously very interested in this place and wanted to take a look. To Yao Wenwen's relief, the sign did not show the existence of the Yao family. Could it be that the Yao family was not here, moved away? Or did he really go the wrong way? Yao Wenwen deceived herself. Yes, she must have gone the wrong way. Zhu Chang also realized that there was no one with the surname Yao. However, he didn't pay too much attention to it. He would just ask someone when the time came. Let's go in and take a look. I think I've heard of this place before, but it has nothing to do with these industries, so I didn't care. But I know someone who said that this is a good place. It said that this place has the largest poultry, livestock farms, greenhouse vegetables, fruits, feed factories, food factories, and clothing factories. However, it was strange. There were so many factories in this place, so why was the environment so good? Logically speaking, this shouldn't be the case. Zhu Chang was very confused. He had also run a factory before. The sewage, waste, and smoke in the factory were all very polluting. This place was really strange. In addition, they didn't see any factories along the way. Chapter 4802. Zhu Chang inquired about the general situation here from passers-by. Only then did he understand that the former factories had been relocated. At present, all the factories were built in one place. The reason why the environment could be maintained was that the villagers did not want to destroy their hometown. Every year, they would spend a lot of money to deal with the pollutants. In fact, what everyone did not know was that Tangwa had contributed a lot of spirit stones to maintain the environment. She remembered that in a certain world, spirit stones could change the water quality, which led to today's situation. Yao Wenwen had confirmed that this place was Shanghe Village. Fortunately, the people who were asked for directions just now were all unfamiliar faces, so no one recognized her for the time being. She wanted to leave, but Zhu Chang was still in the mood. I'll ask where the Yao family is. Zhu Chang saw a young man walking over from the opposite side. He smiled and walked over in a few steps. Kid, do you know where the Yao family is in Shanghe Village? The Yao family? The young man paused for a moment as if he was thinking. Basically, no one who came to Shanghe Village came to look for the Yao family. He lived in Shihe Village, but he had difficulties with his homework during the summer vacation, so he went to Family Tang to ask Teacher Tang for advice. He had just come out of Teacher Tang's house. The Yao family had long been isolated by the people in several villages. The Yao family is over there. No matter why Zhu Chang wanted to look for the Yao family, he still pointed the way for Zhu Chang. Go straight to the end, turn left, go straight to the end, and finally turn right. Kid, thank you. Zhu Chang took out a bill and gave it to the young man. The young man pursed his lips and shook his head, passing by him. Perhaps it was an inadvertent glance, but he glanced at Yao Wenwen. This glance stunned him. At that time, he was still young, and he could not forget the person in his memory. It was not because he missed her, but because he could not forget her impatience, indifference, disdain, and calling him a burden. The memory that had been covered in dust was opened the moment he saw Yao Wenwen. This young man was He Ping. He recognized Yao Wenwen. He knew everything about Yao Wenwen. Perhaps his father was He Chi, and his teacher was Tangwa. Therefore, the villagers did not look at him strangely. On the contrary, they were very sympathetic and looked at him and Yao Wenwen separately. Yao Wenwen didn't recognize He Ping. She was so preoccupied that she didn't notice He Ping's gaze and quickly followed Zhu Chang. Did she come back in glory? He Ping's gaze was fixed on Yao Wenwen's back. He only retracted his gaze when she disappeared from his sight. However, she was afraid that she would be disappointed. He didn't care about Yao Wenwen. This woman would even cheat her own family, let alone him. There's actually a small supermarket here. I'm a little thirsty. Let's buy some water. Yao Wenwen said. Zhu Chang agreed. When he saw the small supermarket, he was stunned. Every family has it. Oh, right, every family has it. The boss seems to be from here. I just don't know which village he's from. When Yao Wenwen heard this, she felt very upset. Every family had a supermarket in every city in the country. Now, even a slightly more prosperous town had such a supermarket. There was not a single person around her who did not know about this. There was actually such a potential stock in the village. Why didn't she see it before? Yao Wenwen was extremely vexed. Why did she only stare at Family Tang and He Chi before? Couldn't she have looked at other families? They arrived at the Yao family. Yao Wenwen froze on the spot. Even Zhu Chang was a little surprised when he saw the Yao family in front of him. He thought that every family here was a small villa, but this Yao family was really different. Chapter 4803. A dilapidated earthen house. When Yao Wenwen saw this, she almost fainted. She had calmed down along the way. She thought that the Yao family was the same as the other places in the village, but she didn't expect that it hadn't changed at all. Is this your home? Zhu Chang asked Yao Wenwen uncertainly. Yao Wenwen's heart was filled with panic and embarrassment. For a moment, she didn't know how to answer. Just as she was stunned, a white-haired woman walked out of the house. It was Yao Wenwen's mother. Zhu Chang and the others were bright and beautiful. At a glance, one could tell that they weren't simple. They attracted Yao Wenwen's mother. All these years, Yao Wenwen's mother spent every day cursing Yao Wenwen. If Yao Wenwen hadn't offended everyone in the village and ran away, would the Yao family's life be so miserable? No one was willing to bring them along for the development of the villagers. Although no one stopped her from setting up a stall at the entrance of the village to sell some snacks and water to outsiders. But what could she do with that little money? She wanted to sell it at a high price. After all, outsiders had no choice but to buy it. However, after the villagers found out, they severely criticized her, saying that her actions were damaging the image of her hometown and forbade her from doing so. If she wanted to sell it, she would sell it at the market price. Yao Wenwen's mother had no choice but to sell it at a high price. Even so, the family couldn't save money. Yao Wenwen's debts were all on her head. After all, she was the one who borrowed a lot of money. With just a little money, someone would come up to collect the debt. Yao Xianxian wouldn't give her money. She went to ask for it and even made a scene. In the end, she was lectured by the villagers, saying that she was cheating her daughter. Besides, Xiaolei wasn't someone to be trifled with. He wouldn't allow her to make a scene like that. At most, Yao Xianxian would give her some red packets and buy some food during the holidays. It was considered a daughter's filial piety. No one could gossip about it. Yao Wenwen's mother first saw Zhu Chang, then her gaze shifted to Yao Wenwen, who was beside Zhu Chang. The moment she saw Yao Wenwen's mother threw the dustpan in her hand to the ground. She ran to Yao Wenwen in an instant and pounced on her. "You bitch, you're finally back. You've caused me so much suffering. Why did I give birth to a money-losing thing like you? I'll beat you to death." Mother Yao was like a lunatic, holding Yao Wenwen down and hitting her. Seeing Yao Wenwen reminded her of what the Yao family had been through all these years. If it weren't for Yao Wenwen, the Yao family would definitely be able to live in a small villa and drive a luxury car like everyone else. Yao Wenwen was suddenly pounced on and couldn't react for a moment. "Old man, come out quickly. Yao Wenwen, that bastard, is back." Now that she's back, don't even think about leaving. Take off her clothes and pay for her debt. Yao Wenwen was a little confused after being hit. Zhu Chang and the driver reacted and pulled Yao Wenwen's mother back. The Yao family was in an uproar for a while. Not long after, everyone in the village knew that Yao Wenwen was beaten up by her mother when she came back. She didn't know what she said, but Mother Yao didn't do anything in the end. The group of people returned to the house. When the creditors heard that Yao Wenwen had gone home, they immediately went to the Yao family to stop her. "Did you return the money?" Tanghua asked Yao Xianxian. It was Yao Xianxian who brought the news to her in a hurry. Yao Xianxian nodded. "She seems to have married a boss who is involved in mining and real estate. She's doing pretty well. That amount of money was nothing to them. My mother was originally very angry with Yao Wenwen, but now she treats her like a precious treasure." This change in attitude was too fast. It's just that those creditors don't seem to be so resentful towards Yao Wenwen. It's said that Yao Wenwen returned twice the amount. As long as her brother and sister-in-law occupied the main market share, Yao Wenwen would not be able to make any big waves. Not only that, but she also wanted Yao Wenwen to suffer a huge loss. "Tongzi, from today onwards, inform me of Yao Wenwen's movements. Whenever she suggests Zhu Chang to enter any industry, you have to pay more attention to it." There were many people she could use. Even if she ran out of Family Tang people, there was still Yao Xuanxuan's family, the He family, and anyone in the village who was on good terms with her. Even if Yao Wenwen had 3 heads and 6 arms, she couldn't compare to her. Tang Gua and Jin Hung hurriedly went to see Tang Yu and his wife and placed the plan in front of them. After they finished reading it, both of them expressed their approval. Chapter 4805. When Tang Gua came back again, it was a month later. Yao Xianxian heard about it and ran over to tell her about the recent changes in the Yao family. They're building a house. It's one size bigger than the villas in the village. My mother is very popular now. When she met me before, she was still mocking me. Tang Gua comforted her. Just live your own life. If you really do something, she won't let go. I know. It's been so many years. How can I not understand? She's already 30 years old. Yao Xianxian suddenly sighed. Yeah, time flies. We're already 30. By the way, Tang Gua, time seems to be very kind to you. Why do you still look like an 18-year-old girl? Tang Gua touched the mirror beside her and pulled Yao Xianxian to look at herself. You look like you're only around 20 years old. Don't speak so old. Everyone in the village knew how much Xiale doted on Yao Xianxian. Not many people were not envious. Zhu Chang knew about Yao Wenwen's previous incident and did not have much of a reaction. In his opinion, this was just a normal operation. If he was in the same situation as before, he would take the money and leave quickly. Only by leaving some money behind could he have the capital to make a comeback. When Tang Gua knew about this, she was even more impolite. As long as Zhu Chang was involved in an industry with prospects, she would write a proposal and send it to Tang Yu and his wife. What they wanted to do, whether it was done by themselves or with others, was none of her business. Yao Wenwen did not mention that she had a child, and the Yao family would not say anything either. Zhu Chang was very busy and went back after a few days. Yao Wenwen did not go back for the time being. She planned to stay here and give the Yao family face. Mother Yao asked her if she wanted to visit He Ping. Yao Wenwen shook her head. She could not visit He Ping now. He was a burden. Mother Yao did not mind and urged Yao Wenwen to quickly give birth to another child. The He family also gathered together. He Ping was already so old, and they were asking for his opinion. He Ping said that he did not care about Yao Wenwen, so he was not willing to go. However, the village was only so big, so they would still meet. Yao Wenwen went to the town to look around and bumped into He Qi and He Ping. He Qi was dressed like a commoner, and He Ping was the same. When the shop assistant called He Qi boss, Yao Wenwen was stunned. At that time, communication was not very developed. Yao Wenwen did not pay much attention to the information in the business circle. How could she know that He Qi was the boss of every family? Yao Wenwen didn't believe it, but soon enough, she saw a man dressed in a suit walk in. This time, he called Mr. He and handed him a document. He Qi was now very reserved. He had restrained all his arrogance and looked very ordinary on the surface. He had no plans to remarry. His biological mother was not good to his son. Chapter 4806. Teacher Su. Teacher Tang is very professional. Every student in the class she is in charge of is very outstanding. If you think that to be a good teacher, you only need a superficial education, isn't that too one-sided? Jin Hung said seriously. Ever since he got together with Tang Gua, she was improving every day. Even if she did not take the exam, there were not many people who could compare with her. Moreover, there was no rule that a high school graduate could not teach in Shangnan Primary School. If Tang Gua was really prevented from teaching by such a rule, then Shangnan Primary School would be in big trouble. Su Xinlu was not from here. She only knew that this place was the most prosperous village in the country. Previously, she accompanied her father to this place to check out the place to buy goods. As for how this place developed, she did not know and did not want to know. She just thought that Shangnan Primary School was very beautiful. The configuration inside was actually the best in the country. She wanted to be a teacher. Since she found such a place, she naturally wanted to go to this best primary school. Who knew that there was an exception in this school, and that was Tang Gua. How could someone who had only graduated from high school be able to teach students here? If the teachers in other mountain villages were at this level, then it would be fine. This was the best Shangnan Primary School. When she knew that Tang Gua and Jin Hung were husband and wife, she guessed that Tang Gua could enter this school because of Jin Hung. If she stayed here for a few months and understood the situation clearly, she would not be so sure. Principal, are you covering up for her? Because you and Teacher Tang are husband and wife, you are covering up for her. Do you think that because you are the principal, you can do whatever you want in Shangnan Primary School? Su Xinlu was not afraid. If Jin Heng did not deal with this matter properly, she would report it. At that time, whether it was Jin Heng or Tanghua, they would be severely punished. She had a good impression of Jin Heng, but she did not want to be a mistress. She did not want to have a reputation of destroying other people's families. Since these two were husband and wife and covered up for each other, then she would not let them stay in Shangnan Primary School. When the time came, Jin Heng would not be able to be the principal. Let's see if he would regret it. He had ruined his future for a woman. Principal, please consider my suggestion. Su Xinlu did not wait for Jin Heng to speak. She turned and left. She gave Jin Heng 3 days. If he did not deal with this matter within 3 days, she would report it to the Education Bureau. Jin Heng frowned. How could there be such a teacher in Shangnan Primary School? Su Xinlu's appearance had alerted him to one thing. Shangnan Primary School was no longer simple. The school was never short of money. Currently, there was a large sum of money in the school's account, and the amount of money was increasing every year. Most of it was donated by the villagers who made a fortune nearby, and some of it was donated by the students who went out. No matter how much or how little it was a sign of everyone's goodwill. Ever since the old principal, the accounts had been made public. Every year, there would be an announcement about what was bought and where the money was spent. At this time, Jin Heng suddenly realized that Shangnan Primary School might have become the best primary school in the country. As for the new teacher, he could not follow the old rules. A teacher like Su Xinlu was definitely not suitable for Shangnan Primary School. How could a teacher question the professional level of other teachers on the 3rd day of work? She did not even know about it, and she was already making a fuss about her education. He did not take Su Xinlu seriously. Instead, he was thinking about how to hire teachers in the future. Chapter 4807. That teacher Su came to find you? Tanghua went to Jin Heng's office after class. Why did she come to find you? Jin Heng quickly said. She came to find trouble. His look of, don't misunderstand, was simply amusing. We were talking with the door open. Why are you so nervous? I didn't suspect anything. Tanghua sat opposite Jin Heng, her eyes full of laughter. What did she come to find trouble with? Jin Heng. She said that you don't have enough education and don't deserve to be a student of Shangnan Primary School. She wanted me to deal with it quickly. Xiaogua. She even threatened me. If I don't deal with it, she'll probably report it. She's crazy. Tanghua was speechless. She was just too lazy to take the exam. If she went out to study, she would waste a few years. What do you plan to do? Let her be. Jin Heng didn't care much about Su Xinlu. I'm thinking about another thing. In the future, when Shangnan Primary School hires teachers, it might be stricter. I don't think a direct transfer like this is suitable for Shangnan Primary School. Everyone is coming here. I think the school needs to come up with some rules to select the teachers. That's a good idea. Tanghua agreed. It's good to have a high education, and it will be the same in the future. But a high education doesn't mean that she's suitable for Shangnan Primary School. She still needs to have a comprehensive standard. That's what I mean. Jin Heng. When we get home, let's find some time to think about this. Jin Heng didn't think that this matter couldn't be applied. Shangnan Primary School was developing very well. No one would be stupid enough to stop this. After Tanghua left the office, she asked the system, what's Su Xinlu's background? When the system heard Su Xinlu's name, it had already done a thorough check on her. I see. Su Xinlu probably has her eyes on my Jin Heng. How could Tanghua not notice that Su Xinlu's eyes were a little strange on the first day she came? She was most likely looking for trouble. However, the other party was a rich young miss. She probably didn't want to bear the reputation of being a mistress, so she could only find trouble with other people to make her feel uncomfortable. If Su Xinlu wanted to make her uncomfortable, she would make her whole family uncomfortable. Let her make a fuss. When the fuss blows up and everyone in the village knows whose daughter she is, we'll see where her father can get the goods from. System. Oh-ho. Su Xinlu was done for. Su Xinlu had been observing Jin Heng's movements for the past few days. She found that Jin Hung didn't do anything. Although he didn't have any intimate actions with Tangwa in school, he didn't do anything. But once school was over, Jin Hung would definitely ride his bicycle and drive Tangwa home. It wasn't that far to begin with, so Jin Hung and Tangwa both felt that riding a bicycle was very interesting. Su Xinlu lived in the teacher's dormitory. She felt unhappy when she saw the loving couple. That Jin Hung obviously did not take her seriously. Fortunately, she wasn't an ordinary teacher. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to do anything to them. Su Xinlu thought of the attitude of the teachers in the office. She felt that these people were afraid of Jin Hung, so they didn't dare to say anything. Didn't they just say that Tangwa wasn't good enough? The teachers in the office actually ignored her and treated her like air. Teacher Zhang, wait. Let's go together. Oh, Teacher Li. What's the matter? Teacher Li lowered her voice. That Su Xinlu wanted to make trouble the moment she came. What do you think? Chapter 4808. Let her make a fuss. If she makes a big fuss, she'll be kicked out. Teacher Zhang squinted his eyes and said, You're lucky to be able to teach at Shangnan Primary School at this time. Just wait and see. After a while, it'll be harder than ascending to heaven to teach at Shangnan Primary School. What do you mean? Teacher Li was surprised. Teacher Zhang whispered, That day when I went to the office, the principal asked me something. I reckon that the selection of teachers to enter Shangnan Primary School will be very strict. The school will probably hire teachers directly. It's a question mark whether other schools can do it, but as long as Shangnan Primary School applies, it will definitely be qualified. If that's the case, that's good. We won't have to transfer someone like Su Xinlu who doesn't know her place. It's fine to talk about us, but she actually talked about Teacher Tang. What a joke. This is enough to prove that she doesn't understand Shangnan Primary School at all. She doesn't know how Shangnan Primary School got to where it is today. Without Teacher Tang, there wouldn't be Shangnan Primary School today. Teacher Li said, Then let's just wait for her to make a fuss and ignore her? Yeah, look at the principal and Teacher Tang. Aren't they ignoring her? When she makes a big fuss and arouses the anger of the villagers, she'll back off. Teacher Zhang chuckled and said, Without her, we can talk about anything in the office. We can laugh and get along well. Now that she's here, I feel that there's no point in staying in the office. If I want to say something, there'll always be someone to talk about it. It's not that infuriating when a student doesn't listen. That's true. She always thinks that she's right and everyone else is wrong. She's the only one who knows more, and we're all country bumpkins. If I talk to her, I'll probably get breast disease and a heart attack. Teacher Zhang leaned closer to Teacher Li and whispered, She's the daughter of a rich family. She's the daughter of a food factory owner. Is that so? Teacher Li was surprised. Teacher Zhang, you know about this? Oh, right. Teacher Zhang is a local. Most of his family members are doing business. He must be well informed. You have to tell me. Teacher Zhang's lips curled up. She took out a few snacks from her bag and pointed the manufacturer to Teacher Li. This is the food factory. My family grows vegetables. Every month. My uncle's family raises cattle, so we have some cooperation. I see. Teacher Li seemed to have thought of something and chuckled. Is it because they basically get their goods here? Yes, vegetables, fruits, meat, and aquatic products are all provided by the people here. Then she's finished. Teacher Zhang snorted coldly. So, let her be. When she's done, it's time for her to leave. Leaving her in the office made me feel uncomfortable. Whenever I used lipstick, she would criticize me, saying that it wasn't good, that it wasn't good, that it wasn't as good as hers, that it wasn't as expensive as hers, and that it wasn't a big brand. That day when I hung a vegetable basket on the street, she looked at me strangely. She even said that women should be delicate, as if I was a country bumpkin. That high and mighty look was really infuriating. I don't think she's some rich girl. She's just a rich girl. What lipstick? What handbags? Look at us locals. It's easy for us to buy them. It's just daily necessities. Why do we have to make it known to everyone? Su Xinlu waited for another week and found that Jin Hong still hadn't taken any action. She was furious. She decided to report him this Friday. She didn't have any classes on Friday afternoon. She must get someone to take care of the rules of Shangnan Primary School. Chapter 4809. Not long after Su Xinlu reported Jin Heng of Shangnan Primary School for covering up for Tanghua, a teacher with a high school diploma, Jin Heng and Tanghua received the news. The party who received the report was also very depressed. Who was Tanghua? She was the person who helped Shangnan Primary School up. She almost became the principal in the past because she did not want to care about things. As for professional standards, all the students who had been taught by her would not be too bad. The probability of them entering high school and entering university was 90%. The remaining 10% would say that they were too playful and failed to live up to Teacher Tang's education. What kind of concept was this? She was simply a god. They were asked to criticize and educate such a good teacher. Were their eyes covered with feces? Every year, they relied on a village primary school in Shangnan to show their faces and make a name for themselves. Just based on Teacher Tang's achievements alone, no one could dismiss her. Teacher Tang's literacy work in the past had made everyone in the few villages near her literate, not just the young children. However, they had to care about why Su Xinlu wanted to report Tanghua. After all, it was related to a very outstanding teacher. On Monday, the higher-ups arranged for someone to come to the school to observe the situation. Su Xinlu was excited at first, but she didn't expect what happened next. The person who came called her and Tanghua together. First, he went to the class that Tanghua taught this morning and asked the students what class they had today. The students answered obediently. Then, he asked the students if they understood what he said. The students all answered that they understood. The leader picked a few students and asked them. He had come to take notes before. Su Xinlu looked at these students and answered the questions in an orderly manner. Almost any one of them was randomly picked, and they all answered fluently. Students, what do you think of Teacher Tang's class? Is there anything that you don't understand, or are you bored or confused? The leader asked with a smile. The students answered loudly, no, Teacher Tang's class is interesting and lively. No matter how difficult the question is, as long as it is taught by Teacher Tang, I can understand it immediately. It is very strange. Moreover, I have never been distracted in Teacher Tang's class. Yes, I can understand every question in Teacher Tang's class. The leader nodded in satisfaction. I was in your classroom the last time. I also think that Teacher Tang's class is very interesting and easy to understand. I really didn't notice that any of the students were distracted. Moreover, all of you answered the questions very enthusiastically, which means that Teacher Tang taught you well. Since Su Xinlu had reported it, they had to come and take a look. Not only did they have to take a look, but they also had to prove Teacher Tang's innocence and let others know whether she was good enough or not. Was it enough? Didn't the scene in front of him prove it? The leader then looked at Su Xinlu, who didn't look too good. Teacher Su, it should be your class next. The subject you're teaching overlaps with Teacher Tang's, and it just so happens that you're in another class. In that case, we'll go and see you in class next time. After class, we'll ask about the other students. The leader didn't say it clearly, but Su Xinlu understood that if she couldn't reach Tanghua's level, she wouldn't be qualified to question Tanghua. Su Xinlu was panicking, but she was unwilling to accept it. She had graduated from university. How could she lose to a high school student? Su Xinlu worked hard to complete the class. She believed that she had already performed perfectly. The leader asked the same questions as before, and the students stood up to answer. Chapter 48:10. Su Xinlu's hands and feet turned cold when she saw the students stuttering their answers. Half of the people who started smoking couldn't answer. Teacher Su, it seems that you still need to improve your teaching standards. Children are all the same. As teachers, we have to constantly improve our professional standards so that we can bring the best to these children. There are no stupid children. There are only teachers who don't know how to teach. Su Xinlu was criticized. She knew that the report would be left unsettled, but she was really unwilling to accept it. What could a high school student teach? She felt that these people had informed Tanghua in advance so that she could be prepared. Su Xinlu's incident had already been publicized. The villagers nearby all knew that Su Xinlu had reported Tanghua and wanted to stop Tanghua from being a teacher. This incident had undoubtedly made the villagers angry. How dare someone bully Teacher Tang? If they were ordinary villagers, they might have gone to the school and demanded that she be fired. But the school was in their village, and the principal was Jin Hung. This was also Teacher Tang's hard work. If they went to the school and made a scene, wouldn't they be adding trouble to her? So they decided to use other methods. Teacher Zhang saw the opportunity and told the villagers about Su Xinlu's background. When everyone knew that the food factory owner was Su Xinlu's father, they understood. If they dared to bully Teacher Tang, they would not sell the goods. Or they would delay the goods for a while. Let's see if they would be anxious. Because of this, the villagers gathered together and held a meeting. They could easily deal with the goods from the food factory. There was no need to worry about sales. Boss Su, who was far away in the food factory, was in a predicament. He had not received the goods that were supposed to be sent over. Not only that, but the goods from the few villages near Shangha village had not been received. He called and asked, but the other party only said, "Boss Su, you are a good person. It's not that we don't want to give you the goods. It's that your Su group is too much of a bully. We can't give you the goods." He bullied people? When did he bully people? Did he dare to bully the ancestors of these few villages? Their goods were good, and the price was reasonable. It was hard to find such suppliers now. Otherwise, his food factory would not be so big. What made him even more devastated was that Jia Jiayu also said that they needed to consider their future cooperation. This was his biggest client. If the other party didn't want his things, then he could only wait to go bankrupt. There were so many food factories now. If they really cut ties with the other party, they would really have no chance. Boss Su realized that the matter was not simple. Otherwise, it would not be possible for the people from several villages to join forces to cause trouble. He planned to go there personally to see the situation, and he planned to leave overnight. On the third day, he came to the village to meet the previous supplier and the boss of each family. He Boss Su, "Do you know why I am where I am today?" He asked. Boss Su didn't quite understand. He was a legend. Everyone knew that he used to be a hooligan, but he suddenly woke up one day. In just a few years, he opened his business all over the country. "It's because of a person's words that woke me up," He added. "Do you know who this person knows?" How would Boss Su know? He still asked politely. He felt that Su Xinlu was not a good person, but Boss Su was still a good person. This time, they just wanted to give him a warning. They didn't really intend to make him go bankrupt. After all, this matter was about Su Xinlu, not Boss Su. But only by giving a warning would Boss Su take good care of Su Xinlu. Teacher Tang was someone they respected. They couldn't tolerate an outsider bullying her. Teacher Tang from Shangnan Primary School, Tanghua, He replied. "Do you think such a person is a good teacher?" Boss Su answered without hesitation, "Of course." Chapter 48:11. But someone actually questioned Teacher Tang's professionalism and said that she didn't deserve to be a teacher at Shangnan Primary School with only a high school diploma. They even went to report her. The higher-ups came and then left. Do you know why? It's because Teacher Tang's professionalism is very strong. The higher-ups didn't think there was any problem. They came because they couldn't ignore the fact that someone had reported them. But they saw that Teacher Tang's professionalism was enough, so they left. All of us locals know Teacher Tang. Her professional standards are not shown by her academic qualifications. Shouldn't a teacher's professionalism be based on the results of the students she teaches? Her students are outstanding enough. It doesn't matter if they have a degree. That means that her professionalism isn't questionable. But some people only care about education and don't know the truth. They just rely on their shallow knowledge and casually report a good teacher. Boss Su, we can't tolerate such things happening. All right, Boss Su, I won't keep you for lunch today. I still have something to do. Boss Su was chased out, but he was a smart person. He wouldn't say these things to him for no reason. The person who stopped him from getting the goods must have something to do with Teacher Tang. As long as he found out what happened recently, he might be able to find out. At this moment, the secretary beside him suddenly said, "Boss Su, Miss Su seems to be teaching at Shangnan Primary School. Do you want to go and take a look?" Boss Su wanted to wave his hand and say that he didn't want to go, but he was very busy now. How could he have the time to catch up with her? He wanted to wait until the matter was resolved. The people he met before treated him well, which meant that they didn't hate him. It seemed that there was still a chance for them to work together. The premise was that he could resolve the matter and eliminate the misunderstanding. He might have been implicated by something. He didn't know who it was that wanted to kill him. If he was caught, he would definitely teach that person a lesson. The secretary's reminder stunned Boss Sue. What did you say? Miss Sue is at Shangnan Primary School. Boss Sue was stunned. Teacher Tang was at Shangnan Primary School, and so was Su Xinlu. Perhaps he understood. Hurry up and find out what happened at Shangnan Primary School and what Xinlu has been doing recently. Everyone in the neighborhood knew that Su Xinlu had reported Tanghua. The villagers didn't cause any trouble. It was because someone had pointed out that they shouldn't go to the school and cause trouble for Tanghua and Jin Heng. Boss Su's secretary quickly inquired about the ins and outs of the matter. When he came back and told Boss Su's eyes turned black. He was wondering why the cooperation was going so well, but the other party suddenly stopped cooperating. It turned out that the father was working hard to start his own business, while the daughter went to someone else's place to cause trouble. Go and call Su Xinlu out. Boss Su's car was already at the school gate. He instructed his secretary to call Su Xinlu out. The secretary answered and ran in quickly. Boss Su took a deep breath. He didn't even inquire about the matter clearly, but he dared to casually report others and even question their professionalism. He had heard of Teacher Tang from Shangnan Primary School before. He was no ordinary person. Xinlu was too outrageous. It seemed that he had spoiled her too much, to the point that she dared to offend anyone. Su Xinlu had been in a bad mood recently, and it was useless to report them. It seemed that Tanghua and Jin Heng were more powerful than she had imagined. She didn't give up. She had to think of a way to teach those who colluded with each other a lesson. Unfortunately, this wasn't her territory. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so troublesome. Chapter 48:12. When Mr. Su's secretary came, Su Xinlu was pleasantly surprised. Did her father miss her? Knowing that Mr. Su was also outside, Su Xinlu quickly ran out. After sitting in the car, Su Xinlu realized that Mr. Su's face was a little ugly. Dad, what's wrong? Our family is going bankrupt. What? Su Xinlu was shocked and instantly panicked. How could it be? Her family had such a big food factory, and it had always been doing well. Many merchants liked to order from their factory. Su Xinlu immediately imagined the miserable situation after the bankruptcy. Her face turned pale. At this time, she couldn't care less about finding trouble with Tanghua. We almost went bankrupt. If this matter isn't handled well, we won't be far from bankruptcy. The biggest supplier and order seller had temporarily suspended their cooperation with him. How could such a big factory not go bankrupt? In such a short time, where could he find such a good supplier? Even if he found one, who could take such a big order? Except for each family, no one else could. Dad, think of a way. We can't go bankrupt. Su Xinlu panicked. If they went bankrupt, how could she survive in the circle of sisters in the future? Those people would definitely see her as a joke. Seeing Su Xinlu like this, Mr. Su was a little disappointed. She was more concerned about the bankruptcy than him. She didn't think about her father. What have you been doing in Shangnan village recently? Su Xinlu was stunned. Did her father know? Su Xinlu told him what happened recently. She also complained about Jin Heng and Tanghua. She said that they covered the sky with one hand and that the higher-ups were perfunctory. Multi-source app, Mimi reading that Tanghua is just an ordinary high school graduate. I don't know what Jin Heng sees in her. For her, he actually disregarded his future and colluded with others. I don't know how much money he gave them. Xinlu, your ability to distort the truth is getting better and better. Mr. Su was so angry that he laughed. This was the first time he heard that the principal of Shangnan Primary School and the legendary Teacher Tang had to give money to others. Didn't the people around them donate money to Shangnan Primary School? Xinlu, do you really want to be a teacher? I feel that you are not suitable to be a teacher. I'm afraid that if you become a teacher, you will teach a batch of students like you. Boss Su had intended to teach Su Xinlu a lesson today, but Su Xinlu had gone astray due to his negligence. With her personality, it would be strange if she didn't offend her. You don't like Teacher Tang because of Principal Jean, right? But you don't want to get involved, so you can only find other troubles. He had to admit that he understood Su Xinlu's thoughts a little. Xinlu, You came to Shangnan Primary School to teach. Do you know about Shangnan Primary School? Do you know its history? Do you really understand the teacher Tang that you've been targeting? Xinlu, how did you become like this? Just because of his own selfishness, he was fearless enough to report others. You said that a high school graduate doesn't deserve to go to Nan Primary School. Let's not talk about the fact that there is no such rule now. Even if there is, there will be some accidents in this world. Even if they don't have any academic qualifications, their knowledge won't be worse than those with higher academic qualifications. You're looking at the problem too simply. You only look at the surface. And in this matter, you're not standing on the side of justice at all. You're just acting selfishly. You're upset that you didn't meet Principal Jean first. You're jealous that Teacher Tang, a high school graduate, can actually be in love with Principal Jean. Am I right? Chapter 48:13. Su Xinlu's eyes widened, and her lips turned pale. After her little scheme was exposed, she felt very embarrassed. Secretary Liu, show Xinlu Teacher Tang's information. I want her to understand that even if some people don't have high academic qualifications on the surface, their abilities, knowledge, and abilities are something you can never compare to. You haven't even learned how to walk yet, but you're already mocking someone who can fly. You're so jealous that you're going to report them. Su Xinlu, you've grown up. Su Xinlu didn't want to see it. Boss Su snorted coldly. Secretary Liu, read it. It wasn't difficult to check what Tanghua had done. It was all publicized by the school. In fact, Tanghua's achievements could be seen in some corners of the school. Unfortunately, Su Xinlu didn't look at those at all. She had offended all the teachers in the school, and no one was willing to remind her. They were waiting for her to cause trouble and be chased away. It was Su Xinlu's fault for picking on Teacher Tang of all people. She deserved it. As the things Tanghua had done were read out one by one, Su Xinlu collapsed. Since Tanghua was 18 years old, she had brought different things to Shangnan Primary School every year. Because of Tanghua, countless students came back to donate money every year. Not only that, there were also some letters from students to Tanghua. Su Xinlu was completely speechless when she heard that some of the students in junior high and high school had come back to ask about Tanghua's experience. Tanghua in this information was almost omnipotent. It was said that she had learned from Jin Hong while teaching students. Jin Heng's knowledge was unquestionable. There was also Jin Heng's evaluation of her. No matter what it was, she could learn it as soon as she learned it. Until now, there was nothing that could teach her. What did this mean? It meant that her ability had surpassed Jin Heng's. Su Xinlu actually doubted her with a mere first-grade education. That was simply a joke. Su Xinlu's eyes were red, and she couldn't help but cry. Do you think that I can do whatever I want just because I've opened a factory and my business is big enough that everyone in the area will be polite to me? That I can throw a tantrum wherever I go? There's always someone better than you. Any random person in this place is more capable than me. Furthermore, their achievements are closely related to Teacher Tang. Do you know that He Chi is the boss of every family? Of course, Su Xinlu knew. Now, she was sobbing so hard that she couldn't speak. Why was it like this? Tanghua was just a high school student. How could she be so capable? Thinking back to the past, she felt that she had nowhere to put her face. He Chi used to be a famous loafer. I met him today, and he personally told me the history of his family and how he got on the right path. It was all because of what Teacher Tang had said back then. With just a few words of advice, he was able to bring out a boss from every family. Let's talk about the factory. Our factory supplies goods from Shanghe Village and a few other villages. Looking at the whole country, the suppliers here are the most honest. The goods are good, they don't cheat, and the price is fair. If it weren't for their supply, my factory wouldn't have been able to do what it does today. Moreover, they don't lack sales, so why are they willing to continue supplying me? Maybe it's because I'm a good person who keeps my word. The factory's biggest customer is He Chi, who has everything. And they are all closely related to Teacher Tang. They have suspended their cooperation, which means that they didn't supply me on time. Family U has also suspended their supply. Chapter 48:14. They're doing this because you didn't distinguish right from wrong and slandered Teacher Tang, whom they respect a lot. They didn't cut me off directly because they saw that I was an honest person. They're willing to see me because they're giving me a way out. Tomorrow is Monday. Come with me to school to apologize, then resign and leave Shangnan Primary School. Su Xinlu wanted to say no and throw a tantrum. Boss Su didn't give her a chance to speak. It's fine if you don't agree. I'll take care of this myself. Seeing Su Xinlu's happy expression, Boss Su was even more disappointed. In the future, my assets will have nothing to do with you. Don't use my power to show off and bully people. Mr. He and the others aren't unreasonable. I'll personally apologize to Teacher Tang. As for you, I'll help you get transferred away. Give me an answer tomorrow morning. Su Xinlu was kicked out of the car. She understood that this time, her father wouldn't be on her side. She crouched down and hugged her knees as she cried. How could she have known that Tang Guo was so powerful? If she had known, she wouldn't have dared to provoke her. On Monday, Boss Su took Su Xinlu to Tanggua's office to apologize. Tanggua had already received the news. She accepted Boss Su's apology. This person was quite sincere. As long as he transferred Su Xinlu away, it was fine. Xinlu, there are many hidden dragons and crouching tigers in this world. Your father is nothing. With your personality, if you continue, you'll offend others. This time, it's because they're nice people that they didn't make a fuss. Otherwise, our family would be facing bankruptcy. Let's learn a lesson. Boss Su sighed. Drive. The crisis was resolved, but he didn't know if his daughter could be turned around. He could only pay more attention to this in the future. Su Xinlu wasn't his only daughter. He also had a younger daughter in her teens. When he got back, he had to pay more attention. With Su Xinlu's personality, he was afraid she wouldn't be able to manage the family business well. She didn't have much ability, but she was quite good at causing trouble. After the incident with Su Xinlu, Tanggua's life returned to normal. From time to time, because of Yao Wenwen's actions, she would write some plans and send them to Tang Yu and his wife for them to decide on. Especially when it came to real estate. Tang Yu and his wife read Tanggua's proposal. As long as they had money, they would buy land and build houses, buildings, and so on. As for Zhu Chong, he wasn't as fast as Tang Yu and his wife. At this time, the property market hadn't risen yet, so the price couldn't be sold. Most of his funds were collected from the mine. Therefore, they didn't buy a lot of land, and the buildings they built didn't occupy much space either. Yao Wenwen didn't think it was bad. Anyway, in a few years, the property market would rise. They would build houses on the remaining land and sell it for money. What she didn't know was that Tang Yu and his wife had built houses all over the country, just like He Chi's house. They did not plan to speculate in real estate and wanted to raise the price of the houses. They were very touched by Tanggua's words about houses being used to live in. Since they had already occupied the main market, what they planned to do was to control the housing prices. They had more than one industry. They were involved in the internet, chips, spare parts, and other industries. They had chosen these three professions themselves. Tanggua didn't mention it at all, which showed that they had good taste. When Yao Wenwen thought that housing prices would soar, Zhu Chong also thought that he was going to make money. Now, more and more people wanted to run to the city. After all, the resources in the city were better. It was normal for housing prices to soar rapidly. Chapter 48:15. On the other hand, Tang Yu and his wife had proposed a house purchase restriction policy. A person could only own 2 houses at most, which made it impossible for the property speculation group to rise. Naturally, the house prices couldn't soar. When Zhu Chong received the policy, he was dumbfounded. Even Yao Wenwen couldn't believe it. How could it be? At this time, how could there be such a strange house purchase policy? And it was a national one. The number of people who bought a house in the past was negligible. From now on, a person could only own 2 houses at most. Those who owned more than one house were not eligible to buy a house unless they sold it. Those who didn't buy a house could buy 2 houses. Although the house prices had risen, it wasn't affordable. It wasn't like what Yao Wenwen had seen before. A city with 3,000 to 4,000 workers and a house price of 10,000 to 20,000. How could this be? Yao Wenwen collapsed. When did that Yuzhong real estate company become so big? Why didn't she notice it? Yuzhong Real Estate Company's appearance had almost attracted most of the country's resources. But they didn't speculate in the house prices. They controlled the house prices so that every family had the opportunity to buy a house. Those who had money would buy a more expensive house. Those who didn't have a house would buy a cheaper one. Moreover, there were certain restrictions on the purchase of a house, which made up for some loopholes. It was difficult to operate. Zhu Cheng lost a lot of money. He didn't make any money at all. He felt that this policy was especially targeted at him. If he left the house empty, he would lose even more. If he sold it, he estimated that he would only be able to recoup the cost. Later, Yao Wenwen found out that the owners of Yuzhong Real Estate Company were Tang Yu and his wife. She almost vomited blood. She couldn't accept it and gave Zhu Cheng ideas. Unfortunately, no matter what ideas she came up with, Tang Yu's side would know and immediately arranged the villagers to occupy the market. Unknowingly, the villagers were involved in various industries, blocking Yao Wenwen's path. The group of people who were tricked by Yao Wenwen later followed Zhu Cheng. When he found that the people in the village had become rich, very rich, he regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. If they had known earlier, they would have stayed in Aunt Yufan's factory. In the future, under the guidance of the family Tang and the He family, wouldn't it be just a matter of time for them to become rich? At that time, they didn't know what blinded their eyes and believed in Yao Wenwen. Why? I've been reborn. Why are there people against me everywhere? No matter what I do, they will do it first. Yao Wenwen was yelling at home. How could Jiang Qian and Tang Yu make such achievements after being together? This world was different. It was completely different from the world she remembered. Why was it different? The property prices were controlled, and there was no way to inflate them. The internet also appeared in advance. It was too scary. Chip companies also rose to prominence. Different, too different. Yao Wenwen was on the verge of collapse. Before she could break down, Zhu Cheng came back in a daze, saying that there was a problem with the company and the mine. Before he could settle it, the mine accident was reported. There was no escape. Not only would he be punished and fined, but he would also have to compensate the families of those who were injured or killed. Zhu Cheng fell, and Yao Wenwen was driven out of the villa. What made her feel even more ridiculous was that Zhu Cheng's company was eventually bought by the original wife in her memory. Beside the first wife was a very handsome middle-aged man. It was said that this man had started from scratch, and he and his first wife were originally a campus couple. However, their families had always been against it. They only got married after they succeeded. Chapter 48:16. When Yao Wenwen heard this, she almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The money was gone, the house was gone, and Zhu Cheng was arrested. Yao Wenwen immediately divorced Zhu Cheng. She didn't dare to return to the Yao family and went to hide somewhere. This world was too unfriendly to her as a reborn person. She was clearly a reborn person. Why did God give everyone in the village a cheat but not give her a chance? Was she being targeted? System. Yes. Tang Yu had to leave earlier than many people. After all, her life was limited. Not long after she left, Jin Heng also followed. The two of them were so healthy that no one would have thought. My little sister is the most powerful one in our family, Tang Yu said, holding a pile of proposals written by Tang Yu in his hand. Others only see us husband and wife in the business world, but they don't know that my little sister is controlling the overall situation behind the scenes. Jiang Qian also touched the proposals. If it weren't for my little sister, we wouldn't be so relaxed. Tang Shi's eyes were red. My little sister is already powerful. How can my little sister not be powerful? Many years ago, someone actually said that she didn't deserve to be a teacher. I wasn't there at that time. If I was, I guarantee that she wouldn't be able to walk out of Shanghai village. Brother Shi, don't be sad. Even though she was old, the woman standing next to Tang Shi was still very beautiful. She was actually comparable to Tang Yu. When Tang Shi married this woman, many people remembered what happened before. The successor of Su's food company is the second daughter of the Su family. The person who despised our little sister is not qualified. Su Xinlu's behavior didn't change later. Boss Su simply trained his second daughter. Su Xinlu was very jealous and made a lot of trouble. In the end, she was sent away by Boss Su. When the second daughter of the Su family took over the power, Su Xinlu didn't dare to make trouble for fear of being suspended. That's right. Tang Shi's mood was much better. My little sister is so outstanding. Anyone who can't see her must be blind. Jin Hong, that kid, is so infatuated. He didn't look like anything. Why did he suddenly leave? Tang Shi murmured. I think that kid was afraid that the ghost in the underworld would seduce his little sister, so he couldn't wait to go. Everyone fell silent. It was really possible. Who didn't know how much Jin Hong treasured Tanghua? Shanghe village and a few other nearby villages were filled with legends. Later on, many people took delight in saying that this was a village that produced talented people. Originally, Tanghua's life was relatively simple, like a salted fish. But later on, the successful people in the village all wrote their own autobiographies. In his autobiography, he had more or less mentioned Tanghua. Chapter 48:17. The King of Hell was silent. The other party didn't know how she appeared in this place. Then how could he know why she appeared in this place? This matter was strange. This person's aura was very strong. He was an existence that he couldn't afford to provoke. It seemed that she wasn't hostile to him. He might as well invite her to sit down and talk. How should I address you? The King of Hell asked politely. Such an existence had never come to the King of Hell's palace. Tanghua. Seeing that Tanghua was friendly, the King of Hell immediately smiled and sat down. Miss Tang, why don't you sit down and have 2 cups of tea before we talk about other things? Of course. Tanghua also guessed that it shouldn't be this King of Hell's doing. The King of Hell was obviously afraid of her. He was still very tactful and wouldn't cause trouble for himself. She suddenly appeared in the underworld. It couldn't be that the emissaries of Hell took her soul away. Her soul aura was so strong that the emissaries of Hell would only take a detour when they saw her. They wouldn't provoke her. Who could it be? 2 faces appeared in her mind. The 2 faces belonged to the same person. It was the person who was trapped in a formation by her. Calculating the time, with the other party's strength, under normal circumstances, he wouldn't be able to come out at this time. However, the other party's background was ordinary. Perhaps he used a special method to escape. Even if he could escape, he wouldn't be in a good mood. The possibility of that person was quite high. Her lifespan in the Yang realm was exhausted. When she regained consciousness, she suddenly appeared here. The King of Hell poured tea for Tanghua. I just asked the emissaries of Hell. They didn't invite Miss Tang to the underworld. In addition, I just checked the surveillance of the underworld. There are no records of Miss Tang entering or leaving. I'm sure that the surveillance hasn't been blocked. Miss Tang's appearance was very sudden. Tanghua, your underworld has surveillance? Ha ha ha, of course. The King of Hell was a little proud when he said this. Aren't we all keeping up with the times now? There are surveillance cameras above. Why can't my underworld have them? Speaking of which, ever since there were surveillance cameras, the security of the underworld has improved a lot. Some talents from the Yang realm who can't reincarnate for the time being. I'll let them work in the underworld. Yama, that's a good idea. It's nothing. It's just an imitation of the mortal world. The King of Hell was completely relieved. Obviously, Tanghua wasn't looking for trouble. He would just treat it as making another friend. Miss Tang must have an extraordinary background. Since you can't find the reason why you're here, why don't you stay in the underworld and observe? Tanghua also had the same plan. She originally wanted to leave, but she suddenly realized that there was something covering the entire underworld, like a very powerful formation. She came to Yama first because if she wanted to break the array, there might be a big commotion. If that was the case, it was highly likely that the array formation was set up by that person. She did not know why the other party wanted to trap her here. That person could not be killed. The other party had suffered twice in her hands, so he would definitely have a backup plan if he appeared again. Although she couldn't kill him, as long as he appeared, she would still kill him. Even if he couldn't kill the other party, he had to at least make the other party suffer some losses. King of Hell, the underworld is currently trapped by a formation. In 2 days, I might want to break the formation. When that time comes, there will be a big commotion. Tangwa directly told him her plan. The matter of the formation surprised the King of Hell. There's a formation that's trapped the underworld? The King of Hell hurriedly used his consciousness to check, but found that the underworld was operating normally. The entry and exit of the underworld was not affected. He told Tangwa this result. Chapter 48:18. The array should be targeting me, so it doesn't stop the people of the underworld. The other party is very strong. It was more likely that it was that person who was targeting her again. She didn't know the identity of that person and why he was targeting her. Tangwa stayed in the underworld as a guest and chatted with the King of Hell for the whole afternoon. The King of Hell arranged 2 messengers for her. He said that he was busy with work and couldn't spare time. When she was ready to break the array, she just had to inform him. Tangwa first checked the array that trapped the underworld and found that it was using the underworld as the array core. The other party must have calculated that she couldn't destroy the entire underworld just to get out. Since she couldn't destroy the array core to break the array, she could only use brute force to break the array. It would take a long time to break the array with brute force. Since she could break it, she wasn't in a hurry. After informing the King of Hell, she went to the most remote place in the underworld and prepared to break the array here. She took out her sword and slashed at the array. The array shook a little. With her current strength, she would need at least 100,000 slashes to break this array. What was in front of her now was not the difficulty of breaking the array, but the real purpose of the other party to set up an array that could only trap her for a while. Tangwa stood at the edge of the array with her sword. The 2 messengers behind her were trembling because of her casual slash. Where did this killing god come from? If that slash landed on their bodies, their souls would be scattered instantly. No wonder the King of Hell wanted them to serve her well. Tangwa decided to break the array first. If she slashed once per second, it would only take more than a day to break this array. After thinking it through, she attacked. The sword in her hand was so fast that only afterimages could be seen. Unknowingly, a day passed. She had a feeling that things weren't simple. It would be best if she could break the array as soon as possible. Just as she was about to slash 10,000 times, a voice made her stop what she was doing. A person appeared beside her. She had never seen this person before. The other party was holding a folding fan and smiling at her. In his eyes, the smile on his lips was undisguised, as if he had already succeeded. Agwagwa, we meet again. The man smiled and put away his folding fan. When he saw Tangwa looking at him, he suddenly realized something. Actually, I should introduce myself. After all, you don't have any memory and don't know me. I'm called Nine Origin. We used to know each other. I'm not interested in you. It doesn't matter if you know or not. Tell me, why did you make this useless little formation to trap me here for 2 days? Hearing Tangwa's disdainful tone, Nine Origin was not angry either. Ayaya, although it's a small lousy array, it can also trap you for 2 days, no? 2 days in hell is enough to accomplish a lot of things in other places. Isn't a Gwagwa unable to tolerate sand in her eyes? I just want to stuff some sand into your eyes to see, Nine Origin said irritatingly. 2 days' time is enough for me to arrange everything. Gwagwa, do you want to know what I did? Actually, you probably don't want to know, but I have to tell you. There's something wrong with your head. Nine Origin felt that his scheme succeeded. No matter how Tangwa scolded him, he would not be angry. Because when she saw everything that happened next, the one who would be angry would only be her. Since you're already here, I've meticulously arranged for so long. Why not take a look? Even if you rush over now, it's also useless. Nine Origin waved his hand. A scene instantly appeared in front of the 2 people. Like a screen, some images appeared inside. Chapter 48:19. A beautiful woman appeared on the screen. She was very young, looking like she was in her early 20s. Nine Origin introduced at the side. This is the character you were originally going to possess. You know it quite clearly. Tangwa's eyes did not move away from this 20-year-old beautiful woman. The other party's complexion did not look too good. There was cold medicine at the side. She should have caught a cold. Nine Origin said, the main plot of this world is that the male lead and female lead were originally a loving couple. Later, due to various reasons, the two quarreled and broke up. Half a year after breaking up, the male lead found this character you wanted to possess. Oh, she's still called Tangwa. A month after the male lead and Tangwa confirmed their relationship, the female lead lost her memory. This amnesia was quite strange. She forgot all the plots after she and the male lead had a conflict and broke up. That is to say, in the female lead's impression, she and the male lead were still in the honeymoon period. Of course, the male lead was also very melodramatic. He didn't forget his feelings for the female lead. Then, you also know, the feelings between the three people became entangled. Things definitely weren't that simple. I helped to do something and let Tangwa be reborn. When Tangwa saw the beautiful woman in the picture just now, her gaze was indeed a little different. What do you want to do? What else can I do? Speaking of which, if that follower was in this world, would he have something with this reborn Tangwa? Hee hee. Nine Origin kept fanning himself. I don't want to do anything either. I just want you to see with your own eyes that follower treating others well, marrying others, and sleeping with others. Nine Origin discovered that Tangwa's complexion was not too good and was in a happy mood. Ayaya, if you see with your own eyes that follower treating others well and being together with others, you can imagine that he won't enter your eyes from now on. Nine Origin thought hatefully in his heart. Back then, in order to break out of the formation, he paid a heavy price and spent countless treasures and time before finally recovering from his injuries. Agwagwa, this is my revenge on you, letting you see with your own eyes the most beautiful thing shatter before your eyes. Tangwa ignored Nine Origin. She was already forming seals. When Nine Origin saw the situation, he said, "What are you doing? Let's set up a formation first. I'll deal with you later." By the time Tangwa finished speaking, the formation had already been set up. Nine Origin's face fell. Agwagwa, you lunatic. You provoked me first. Nine Origin discovered that he indeed could not come and go as he pleased and was somewhat vexed, but also somewhat glad. Fortunately, he had a backup plan. Even if he was trapped, his losses wouldn't be as disastrous as the last time. Nine Origin said calmly, "Agwagwa, I've long been prepared. You can't kill me." Finished talking, he even grinned, seemingly very pleased with himself. Tangwa looked at him as if he was an idiot. "If I'm not wrong, you're a part of the original body, right? However, if you want to break through space-time, the amount of energy you need to split apart is definitely not small. I don't plan to kill you. I just want to destroy a part of you that has been split apart. I want to turn you into the purest energy and devour you." Nine Origin, right? You better do this in every world. You come one, I'll swallow one. I'll see how many times your main body can split. If you're as formidable as cell division, consider it my loss. Nine Origin's lips trembled. His calves involuntarily trembled. Tianhai's little overlord was indeed different. But this enmity, he had to take revenge. Agwagwa, why bother? Chapter 48:20. Tangwa. No matter who you are, no matter what grudges you have with me, if I can go out one day, I'll definitely make you beg for death. Nine Origin's soul was trembling. No, he was not to be trifled with either. She came to mess with him. Did he not know how to run? Yes, if she could go out, he would hurry up and run. Tangwa did not say anything more to Nine Origin, her gaze landing on the screen. After that, Tangwa inside was reborn. She already launched a counterattack against the male and female leads. The other party's methods were actually cut from the same cloth as hers. Each scheme won her deeply. It was just that the male and female leads' halos seemed to be very big, able to turn the tables every time. I just let her be reborn, but didn't add destiny on her. How precious is destiny, this thing? She herself is a cripple, a stepping stone. She doesn't have much halo at all. Even if she was reborn, she still can't beat the male and female leads. However, if that follower of yours is here, then it's different. You see, speak of the devil and the devil will appear. The follower is here. Tangwa pursed her lips tightly and looked at the person Nine Origin was pointing at. That person was called Xielin in this life. Xielin's appearance turned the Tangwa, who was an arrow at the end of its flight, out of danger. One could tell from the other party's methods that this person was indeed that guy. What made Tangwa's mood better was that although he made a move to help, he did not have any other thoughts about that Tangwa inside. It seemed like he just specially came over to help once. That was all. But Nine Origin did not panic. Feelings will be slowly nurtured. When Nine Origin's words fell, Xielin and Tangwa in the screen were talking. The Tangwa, after rebirth, because of all kinds of unfair encounters in her previous life, she had some apprehension and distrust toward everyone. Xielin's appearance and sudden help made her very vigilant. There was no so-called hero saving the beauty that Nine Origin hoped for at all. The beauty would have a good impression. But Tangwa saw the crux of the problem. Xielin indeed helped Tangwa, but he acted very unfamiliar. If she was that Tangwa inside, she would also feel that all of this was very strange. This person was baffling. Xielin said, "I'm not here to help you. It's just that you're related to that person, so I'm doing it for her sake. She probably won't come. I don't want to see you end up in such a miserable state. If you don't mind, you can call me Big Brother." The plot that Nine Origin looked forward to did not happen. Originally, he was looking forward to the two becoming a couple. He did not expect that they became brother and sister. What made Nine Origin break down even more was that Xielin brought Tangwa home and let his parents acknowledge her as their adopted daughter. Thus, they became real siblings. When Tangwa saw up to here, she suddenly laughed out loud. "Nine Origin, you schemed so much. It's a waste of effort. Bootlickers will die a horrible death." Nine Origin cursed bitterly and said stiffly, "I've never seen such a person. I just don't understand. They are clearly both Tangwa. Why doesn't he like the one inside?" "Not watching anymore?" Tangwa asked Nine Origin. Nine Origin roared furiously. "What's there to look at? They've already become siblings." Spending such a great price, she actually let him watch this. There was something wrong with that follower's brain, right? Tangwa did not leave the scene. Xielin was already on the hospital bed at this time, saying his last words to Tangwa, letting her take good care of his parents. The ending was the scene of Tangwa shouting, "Big Brother," loudly, swearing that she would take good care of his parents. Xielin said that he was going to find her and then closed his eyes. Nine Origin was very angry. This follower was not living up to his expectations at all. Damn it, he planned so much, but nothing happened. He was even made a joke by the other party. Infuriating, infuriating. Stinky follower. Nine Origin suddenly felt very cold. Following that, he felt that he could not move. He shouted, Hey, are you serious? What do you think? Damn it, he didn't do anything. He only acknowledged a sister and didn't betray you. Let's forget about this matter." Tangwa rubbed Nine Origin's soul forcefully. Hearing the other party's screams, she said, "But you wasted my time and made him sad. The energy is too little. You can share more next time. I don't mind this kind of thing happening a few more times. It's best if your main body comes over directly. Maybe I can go out after swallowing you." This was the last thing Nine Origin heard. Apex. When she put it to the tip of her nose, she instantly smelled something in it. It turned out to be sterilization medicine. It wasn't much, but if she ate it a few more times, she would definitely be infertile. However, she still drank it because this thing had no effect on her. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw the other party heave a sigh of relief and look very satisfied. She felt that her guess was right. How ruthless. He just didn't know if the family behind her thought the same. "Sister, go to sleep. I'll wake you up for dinner tonight." After he left, Tangwa received the memory. The plot was similar to what she had guessed. Her biological sister was called Tang Shan, and her father was a third-rank official. In the capital, he was just a small official. Her brother-in-law was amazing. He was actually the regent of the imperial court, a regent in his early 30s. In the history of this world, there weren't many regents who were in their early 30s. Moreover, They were the kind who held great power and were feared and supported by the imperial court. Tanghua was more and more certain that Tang Shan's actions were approved by the family. Transmigration. Female supporting character, calm down, no mistakes will continue to be updated. There are no advertisements on the website. Please bookmark and share. Transmigration. Female supporting character, calm down, please bookmark transmigration. Female supporting character, calm down. Chapter 48-22. Sure enough, when she saw that Tang Shan wouldn't live for long, it was allowed by the family to let Tanghua, the second daughter of the Tang family, marry into the regent's mansion. It was Tang Shan's private act to give the original host a medicine that made her infertile. Later, when the original host's mother found out, she didn't say anything. Tang Shan was afraid that after she died, her sister and the regent would have their own children and wouldn't love her children. In the future, everything the regent had would not be left for her children. Therefore, he might as well go all out and do it. In her opinion, the original host didn't have any children. Her son and daughter were the original host's nephew and niece. She would treat them as her own and treat them twice as well. She took the original host into the regent's mansion. On the surface, she intended to let the original host and the regent cultivate a relationship so that it wouldn't be too abrupt in the future. In fact, she just wanted to find an opportunity to drug the original host. Tang Shan succeeded. The original host was not prepared at all. This sister who had been close to her since childhood treated her so cruelly. Although she didn't like Tang Shan mentioning the regent's good from time to time, her sister was seriously ill and she was willing to listen to Tang Shan most of the time. When Tang Shan made delicious food, she didn't guard against it. She didn't want to make her sister sad, but she didn't expect that her sincerity would lead to her sister's scheme. After Tang Shan completed her scheme, she passed away half a year later. The original host married the regent a year later. The regent didn't like her. Marrying her was just Tang Shan's last words. Tang Shan and the regent were a loving couple. What she said, the regent naturally listened. After he married her, she became nothing more than a decoration. At first, she didn't think it was a big deal. Her sister's wish was fulfilled and the family's arrangement was completed. In this life, she would take good care of her sister's son and daughter. When she saw the regent's attitude, she agreed with him and thought that it was good to be like this. She never thought about her powerful brother-in-law. She didn't think she was suitable for such a person. If Tang Shan didn't poison the original host, maybe no matter what happened later, she would just raise the two children with peace of mind. Unfortunately, she knew the truth about what Tang Shan did half a year after marrying. From that day onwards, she looked at the two children who were already hostile to her with indifference. The lively original owner had become silent, and sometimes even looked gloomy. Occasionally, the two children would be scared to tears by her. She could tolerate the two children's mischief. Now that the two children were fooling around, she would reprimand them. She would not pity them as much as she did in the past, and she would have more patience. Given her personality, she really couldn't bring herself to harm the two children. Therefore, she could only be indifferent to them and treat them as if they did not exist. Perhaps because their father had a lot of power, these two children had been raised to be arrogant and domineering since they were young. From the beginning, they often went against the original owner. Everyone, both inside and outside the mansion, knew that the two sides were not on good terms. Because of this, the regent also had some opinions about her. Later on, some things happened, and he even forbade her from leaving her courtyard, which was equivalent to grounding her. If this matter was spread out, it would be that her stepmother had mistreated her two children, and the prince regent had allowed her to live in the residence because she was Tang Shan's biological sister. If it was like this for the rest of her life, the original owner would have died alone. When the two children were 10 years old, the female lead of this world appeared. She was a transmigrator. When she appeared, she had a relationship with the two children. The latest website to download the latest TXT ebook. Please click to read this book on mobile to post a review in order to make it easier for you to read it next time. You can click the save button at the bottom to record this reading. Next time you open the bookshelf, you can see it. Please recommend this book to your friends. Thank you for your support. Chapter 48:23. Because the two children were naughty, they were kidnapped by human traffickers. Coincidentally, they met the transmigrated woman who was kidnapped by human traffickers. The transmigrated woman used her own wisdom to successfully escape and save the two children. As for the other cannon fodder, she didn't have the ability to save them. Because of saving the two children, the transmigrated woman was seriously injured. Fortunately, the regent arrived in time and saved her life. From then on, the transmigrated woman and the regent had contact and slowly developed feelings for each other. The transmigrated woman also knew that the regent had a second wife who was the regent's first wife's younger sister. From the two children, she learned that the second wife was very vicious. She treated the two children harshly and pitted them even more. In short, the transmigrated woman Chuchio had a bad feeling about the previous host until she met her. Sure enough, she was a gloomy and cold person who didn't seem easy to get along with. Later, someone harmed the two children and the previous host was suspected. Later, many people knew that the regent liked Chuchio, and some people wanted to harm Chuchio. The first person to do this was the family Tang. However, the family Tang failed to harm Chuchio and was discovered. The regent blamed all of this on the previous host. He didn't touch the family Tang for Tang Shan's sake. As for the previous host, she wasn't so lucky. She was demoted to a concubine by the regent and was bullied by the servants in the house. The servants bullied her because they felt that she had no power and also because of the two children's orders. In their eyes, the original owner was an unpardonable evil, the murderer who killed their mother, so they had never shown mercy all these years. If someone harmed them, as long as there was no evidence, they would say that it was most likely the previous host who harmed them. The pitiful previous host didn't do anything excessive because they were two children. After being demoted to a concubine, she finally understood how stupid she was. Before she died, she was smart for once and ruthless for once. She secretly contacted the family Tang and asked the family Tang to give her some sterilization medicine. She said that if Chuchio had children, Tang Shan's two children wouldn't have a good ending. The family Tang thought that she was sincere and spent a lot of effort to find the medicine for her. Actually, she didn't do it to harm Chuchio. She did it because she drugged the two grown children. It wasn't long after this matter was discovered, but it didn't help. These two people weren't the main characters, so they couldn't recover. The regent was furious and finally took her life. She didn't know what happened after her death, but the regent's residence shouldn't be very peaceful. Chapter 48:24. There was no special power in this world, so the world was relatively fragile. Tangwa chose to cultivate her internal strength. For convenience, she swallowed medicine to cultivate her internal strength this time. Her progress was especially fast. It had only been half a month since she transmigrated, and her internal strength had reached a small success. If she reached a large success, she would be able to do it in another half a year. As for the moves, she didn't need to deliberately cultivate them. Her soul already knew them. She only needed to cultivate her internal strength well. Everything else was no problem. With the ability to protect herself, she was also planning what to do next. Marrying the Prince Regent was impossible. Tang Shan liked him so much. Why not help Tang Shan prolong her life? She didn't want Tang Shan to recover. She didn't have that kind of kindness. She just wanted to make some pills to keep Tang Shan alive. She just wanted to see what kind of sparks would fly between the two of them when Tang Shan met Chuchio in the future. She couldn't bear to part with that man. Tang Shan should go accompany him. Did she really think that others liked her? She was afraid that others couldn't take care of her child. She would take care of it herself. Anyway, with her here, Tang Shan wouldn't die. For the rest of her life, she would let Tang Shan linger on with her last breath. In the past half a month, Tang Shan invited her to eat good food almost every day. She had diagnosed that this body was indeed infertile. Tang Shan obviously knew. These days, she didn't invite her to eat and didn't mention how good her brother-in-law was in front of her. When Yun Bingjun came back, Tang Shan would definitely call her over in the past. However, she hadn't called her over for 3 days. Her biological sister obviously didn't want Yun Bingjun to really like her in the future. She really wanted to take advantage of everything. After Tangwa dressed up, she went to see Tang Shan and said that she wanted to go out for a walk. Go. I'm afraid that I can't accompany you with this body. Call 2 guards to follow you. Tang Shan looked tired. She held Tangwa's hand and said, if it was in the past, Tang Shan would probably let Yun Bingjun arrange for people. Now, there was no need. Before she died, she wanted to have Yun Bingjun to herself. You really can't stay here. Go have fun. Remember to come back before dark. Yes, sister. After saying goodbye to Tang Shan, Tangwa left the residence. She happened to run into Yun Dan and Yun Xian. The 2 children were returning from outside. When he saw her, his face was full of hostility. Only when she was in front of them did the 2 of them greet her, as though they were a little reluctant. They didn't dare to not greet him. If they didn't greet him, their mother would definitely get angry. These 2 children were only 5 or 6 years old. As expected of a rich family, they were very precocious. Tang Shan must have said that she wanted her to be her mother after she died. She must have been so hostile towards her. This was indeed a huge blow to a child. As usual, Tangwa greeted them neither intimately nor intimately, then went out and got into the carriage. He chose to take the carriage because it was more stable. The sedan chair was bumpy and uncomfortable. Her excuse to go out this time was actually to find the source of a prescription in her hands. First, she went to the various pharmacies in the capital to ask about Tang Shan's condition. Most of the doctors in the capital knew about the regent's consort's condition, but they all chose to shake their heads. Everyone knew that she was worried about Tang Shan's condition. In that case, she might have gone to the temple to pray for blessings. Perhaps she was very sincere. Coincidentally, she met a master who gave her a prescription to prolong her life. Wasn't that a normal thing? No one would suspect anything. This prescription could only prolong her life. It took her several days to research it. If the other party used the excuse of wanting the regent to marry her directly, then she would also use the excuse of wanting her sister to live well. What she meant was that unless Tang Shan died, she would not marry him. In the future, if the Tang family had other ideas, she would expose the fact that she was infertile and Tang Shan's true colors would be revealed. At that time, the 2 sisters would turn against each other and become enemies. System. Scary. As for the Prince Regent, he seemed to be quite arrogant. Monopolizing the power, the emperor in the imperial palace was probably sullen. She did not know if the emperor really did not understand, or if he was pretending not to. If he had to endure hardships and wait for revenge, she would give him a hand. The Prince Regent would be finished. After making the plan, Tangwa slowly tasted the tea and admired the flowers. She was very satisfied. Suddenly, she felt a strange gaze. She turned around and saw a person standing in the peach forest. It was a handsome young master. She was 16 this year. This handsome young master was probably 1 or 2 years older than her. Chapter 48-26. Hey, what are you looking at? Tangwa found that this young master was still staring at her after being caught. He looked silly and cute, so she wanted to tease him. The handsome young master also reacted. His cheeks were slightly red, and he spat out 2 words, fairy. Looking at a fairy, he was even caught. Oh, come over and take a closer look. See if I'm a fairy. Tangwa's words completely broke the image of a fairy in Zhou Jin's mind. A fairy shouldn't be like this. He walked in front of Tangwa in a few steps. Seeing that Tangwa didn't stand up, she looked at him with her chin in her hand and smiled. Are you a fairy? Zhou Jin was in a dilemma. If he answered that she was a fairy, she wasn't. If he answered that she wasn't a fairy, it seemed inappropriate. What's your name? Tangwa sat down and gestured for him to sit. Sit down, let's drink together. Zhou Jin thanked her and sat down without hesitation. He was attracted by the fragrance of the tea. The tea was very fragrant, and it floated into his wing room from afar. Walking along the peach forest, he saw a fairy-like girl tasting tea. He was stunned for a moment and was discovered. Jingzhou. Zhou Jin drank a mouthful of tea before answering Tangwa's question. He even praised the good tea. May I know your name? Tangua. Tangua? Zhou Jin silently recited this name in his heart and quickly remembered who she was. She was the sister of the regent's consort. She was now a guest in the regent's mansion for more than 3 months. He also knew what she was thinking. What Zhou Jin didn't know was that when he said his name, Tangua also knew his identity, that poor little emperor with no power. The moment she saw Zhou Jin for the first time, she knew that this person was not a fish in a pond. He would not be willing to be a real puppet. It was said that the little emperor was obsessed with all kinds of tea, teapots, musical instruments, and all kinds of stories. He knew nothing about court politics. There were also rumors among the people that this little emperor was temperamental. Because a palace maid accidentally spilled his tea, he ordered someone to take her out and beat her up. The courtiers planned to choose a concubine for the little emperor and choose an empress, but the little emperor was like mud that could not be supported. Besides, the one in power was the regent. Many courtiers were not willing to push their daughters into the fire pit. Moreover, this little emperor was especially willful. He once said that she was so ugly. How could she be worthy of me? Tangua scrutinized Zhou Jin carefully. He was indeed good-looking, and he had some confidence when he said those words. As a result, the little emperor still had no concubines or empress. Later on, there were often rumors that he used excuses to punish some palace maids. The palace maids ended up in a miserable state. If this continued, they would probably become single dogs. Chapter 48:27. That's it. Zhou Jin looked at the thin sheets of information in his hand. Isn't this just an ordinary girl in the boudoir? Qi Qing, did you not investigate seriously? Qi Qing, this subordinate has already tried very hard, but this is all that I can find. Forget it. Since she has martial arts, she will definitely hide the secret. It is normal that it is not easy to find. So, the family Tang and Yun Bingjun do not know that she has martial arts? Qi Qing, it seems that they do not know. That's interesting. Zhou Jin touched his chin and narrowed his eyes slightly. A girl in the boudoir had martial arts, and even the people close to her did not know. This was a big deal. The regent's consort wanted to let Tangua marry into the regent's residence in the future. This matter must wait until after the regent's consort's death. And with her body's bones, it was estimated that she would be gone in less than 3 years. If she entered the residence, the earliest would be the year after her death. In other words, he had at least 4 years to do something. But 4 years later, he did not know if he had the confidence. His people had not grown up yet. If he did it in advance, there would be a lot of trouble. Originally, he planned to wait a little longer. The regent did not have any other skills, but his ability to rule the country was not bad. With the regent there to intimidate the court, he could secretly strengthen his power. There was no need to deal with those old men in advance. When he became a real tiger one day, the regent would be useless. Master, what are you thinking about? Think of a way to snatch her away. Qi Qing was Zhou Jin's most trusted confidant. He did not hide anything and said what was in his heart. Qi Qing, think of a way. You don't need to make a move in advance to snatch her away. Qi Qing was a little excited. Everyone knew that his master was not interested in women. Some people secretly talked behind his back, saying that his master was impotent. A few years ago, there were people who did not believe it and bribed the palace maids to think of ways to seduce his master. Unexpectedly, his master took this opportunity to get rid of those people. No matter how many of them came, his master would find an excuse to lose his temper and get rid of all the palace maids. Once the master's temper flared up, the court officials suffered heavy losses. Until now, none of the palace maids in the palace dared to act rashly. They were afraid that if they provoked their master, they would be gone. Master, you are the emperor. If you want someone, how could the regent not give it to you? Qi Qing said, this regent of ours is still good on the surface. I don't care about the regent, Zhou Jin said with a headache. What if she doesn't like it? Qi Qing, what did he do back then? After all this time, he was just afraid that the lady wouldn't be willing. No, why was Master acting strangely today? Sure enough, the little Emperor Zhou came. This time, their conversation lasted a little longer. For the next few days, as long as Tanghua was there, Zhou would arrive on time. The two gradually became familiar with each other and chatted happily. When Tanghua was about to leave Fan Hai Temple, Zhou was reluctant to part with her. However, he had pretended to be sick for more than half a month, so he should have recovered and returned to attend court. Otherwise, those courtiers would probably think that he was dead and would be thinking about choosing a new monarch. When they parted, Zhou also gave Tanghua something. It was a pearl, bigger than the two that Tanghua had seen before, and it was still a light pink. Before Tanghua could say anything, Zhou hurriedly ran away. He didn't want to listen to her. What if she didn't want to talk? He had to give the thing away first. Tanghua held the round pearl in her hand and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He ran away after giving the thing away. What was wrong with him? He didn't even say a word and ran away so fast. Was there a ghost chasing after him? System. Maybe he was shy? Top point. Chapter 48-29. Alas, Zhou, who had returned to the palace, slapped his head in annoyance. I forgot something. Qi, what is it, master? I was so focused on giving her things that I was afraid she wouldn't accept them that I forgot to tell her not to be in a hurry to get married and to wait for me. Qi, master. In this subordinate's opinion, second Miss Tang may also be interested in master. If she wasn't interested, she wouldn't have chatted so happily with master in those few days. As far as I know, she doesn't know about the family Tang and the regent's consort's plans. She really stayed in the regent's residence to accompany the regent's consort. Zhou eyes lit up. Really? Really? Zhou still wanted to say something, but someone came in from outside to report that the regent had arrived. Without waiting for him to say anything, the person walked in from outside. He, the son of heaven, really didn't have any sense of existence in front of the regent. Zhou didn't care about these situations and wasn't in a hurry. Sooner or later, he would restore the court and take back all the power. I wonder why the regent has come here today. Yun Bingjun cupped his hands and seemed to be respectful, but in fact, he didn't even bend his knees. How is His Majesty's health? It's already fine. Zhou waved his hand indifferently. He leaned lazily on the chair as if he had no bones. He was still a little sleepy, as if he hadn't woken up yet. Yun Bingjun observed carefully. The little emperor even yawned and the corners of his lips curved. This little emperor was most likely pretending to be sick and going out to play was too tired. He was really an ignorant and incompetent thing. However, this was also what he needed. It didn't matter whether he was talented or not, as long as he was obedient. The little emperor probably also understood, so he played so unscrupulously. Since he was obedient, he could play if he wanted to. Such an obedient little emperor had to live well and not play until he was exhausted and died early like those old things hoped for. However, the little emperor wasn't lustful and didn't like wine. He only liked tea and fun. His body probably wouldn't be exhausted. If it was another emperor, how troublesome would that be? How could he be as easy to deal with as this little emperor? Zhou lowered his eyes. On the surface, he looked lazy, but in his heart, he was thinking that something big must have happened. Yun Bingjun had already decided to come here to go through the motions. With the regent taking care of things, he was still very assured. It was a pity that this fellow could not be used by him, so he could only kill him. As the saying goes, a mountain cannot accommodate two tigers. The regent handed over the booklet in his hand and expressed his thoughts. He had already decided on what to do. As he spoke, Zhou was flipping through memorials. In Yun Bingjun's eyes, Zhou was just lazily flipping through 2 pages, very perfunctory. As for Zhou, as long as he flipped through the memorials, he would be able to finish reading the contents in an instant. This was his talent, reading 10 lines at a glance. This was a skill he had hidden since he was young. Other than his birth mother and the late emperor, no one else knew about it. Otherwise, why would the late emperor arrange for a group of mysterious people to guard him? It was because he was the one with the most hope. I think the regent's decision is very good. It's approved. Your Majesty, and Zhou Jin waved his hand. It's approved. Satisfied, Yun Bingjun took the memorials and left. After he left, Zhou Jin sat up. Tanghua had also returned to the regent's mansion. Tang Shan was talking to her, wiping her tears. Gua is considerate. Unfortunately, with sister's health, I'm afraid Gua good intentions will be brushed away. It won't be delayed for long. The peak. Chapter 48:30. Perhaps it's because Tang Shan's heart has been relieved, but her body suddenly feels much worse. From the looks of it, she probably won't last a year. According to the original trajectory, it'll take about half a year. Sister, don't talk nonsense, you'll be fine. I've already cultivated in seclusion at Fan Hai Temple for 10 days. If Buddha sees my sincerity, he'll definitely help you get better. System, dear host, I don't know if your conscience hurts when you say this. Cultivate in seclusion for 10 days? How can you say that? If Buddha really sees it, he'll probably sit up and take Tangshan's life. However, there's no Buddha in this world. All the myths and legends are made up by people. Tangshan's face is pale as she grips Tangwa's hand tightly. Guo, I really can't bear to leave. I can't bear to leave you. I can't bear to leave father and mother. I can't bear to leave my 2 children, and I can't bear to leave Bingjun. You're all the most important people in my life. As long as there's a chance, how can I not want to live? Guo, let me speak. Tang Shan stops Tanghua from comforting her. Guo, actually, I'm most worried about Tan and Xian. They're only 5 years old this year. If I'm gone, who can take care of them? I'm really afraid that they'll have a stepmother who doesn't treat them well. Even if the stepmother doesn't treat them badly, the new princess consort and Bingjun will have their own children. Even if they don't treat them badly, they'll ignore them. The servants are the best at taking advantage of the situation. How can they be treated well? Tan and Xian are my flesh and blood. When I think of what will happen to them in the future, my heart feels like it's going to break. Tang Shan sees that Tangwa's eyes are red. This time, she grips her hand even more tightly. Guo, can you help me take care of Tan and Xian? Sister, what are you saying? They're my nephew and niece. Isn't it my duty to take care of them? Tanghua pretends not to know. In her heart, she thinks, who's willing to take care of these 2 little ingrates? You take care of them yourself? Tang Shan shakes her head. Guo, what I mean is, can you be their mother? Other than you, I don't know who else to trust. Only if you agree to be their mother, can I go with peace of mind. Yesterday, the doctor came again and said that I'm afraid I won't be able to last a year. As Tang Shan spoke, she actually started sobbing. Tanghua hurriedly comforted her. The 2 sisters looked very affectionate. Seeing that Tanghua did not agree, Tang Shan immediately knelt down. She was obviously forcing Tanghua to agree, taking advantage of the fact that she was about to die. Sister, what are you doing? Hurry up and get up. It won't be good if you catch a cold. Tanghua went to pull Tang Shan. Tang Shan was determined. She would not get up if she did not settle this matter today. Chapter 48:31. There was a doctor in the mansion who rushed in to treat Tang Shan. After a while, Tang Shan's personal maid came out to call for Tanghua. Tanghua followed in. The 2 sisters held hands again. Tang Shan kept telling Yun Bingjun that it wasn't Tanghua's fault. She was too agitated. Bingjun, Guo, do you really want me to die with everlasting regret? Tang Shan's eyes were filled with tears. Can't you agree to a small request from a dying person like me? Tanghua, a small request? Ha, it's rare to see someone so selfish. She hated Yun Bingjun, but she hated Tang Shan more. Bingjun, promise me, okay? Tang Shan said emotionally. She couldn't help coughing violently again. She spat out mouthfuls of blood. Yun Bingjun finally relented. Okay, I promise you. Tang Shan smiled. Bingjun, then I'll leave Guo and the 2 children in your care. You must take good care of them. Don't bully them. Okay. Guo, promise me, okay? Tang Shan grabbed Tanghua's hand tightly, afraid that she wouldn't agree. Yun Bingjun saw her in pain and tried to persuade her. Why don't you fulfill your sister's wish? This is her only wish. Tangua, idiot, cerebral palsy man. Although she cursed in her heart, Tangua still held Tang Shan's hand with red eyes. Sister, I can't promise you. Sister, I don't want you to die. If I promise you, you won't be able to live well once your wish is fulfilled. You won't have faith to support you. If I promise you, what's the difference between it and killing you? Tang Shan was stunned. Tangua continued, but if I don't promise you, you'll be sad and your condition will worsen. Tang Shan was relieved. As long as Guo agreed, she was relieved. Sister, I can only say this. If you're alive, Tang and Xian will always be my nephew and niece. The regent can only be my brother-in-law. If there is such a day in the future, I will do as you say. How about it? Tang Shan understood what he meant. In other words, Tangua wanted her to live. As long as she was alive, their relationship would not change. If she was really gone, he would do as she said. In summary, Tangua agreed. All right, Guo, thank you. I only hope that Big Sister can live well and that this day will never come. Tangua's words caused Yun Bingjuan's gaze to soften. This was for the best. If she hadn't forced him, how could he have agreed to such a thing? If Tang Shan was gone, then marrying Tangua into the family would indeed be the best thing that could happen. He wouldn't feel at ease leaving those two kids in anyone else's hands. He had already thought it through. If Tang Shan was really gone, he would marry Tangua and give her the honor of taking care of the two children. After that, there would be no more after between them. Tang Shan was probably a little tired, so she fell asleep. Tangua and Yun Bingjun went out and stood at the door. Tangua suddenly said, "Brother-in-law, Big Sister will be fine." Of course she will be fine, Yun Bingjun said and left. Everyone in the family knew that Tangua had promised Tang Shan. Almost everyone believed that she would be the future mistress of the family and was much more polite and respectful to her. Yun Dan and Yun Xian didn't like Tangua. The two children even came to her room. Yun Dan said fiercely, "You can never be my mother." Yes, don't even think about it. Chapter 48-32. Perhaps it was the news of Tang Shan's sudden illness that made Yun Dan and Yun Xian hate Tangua even more. That's why they ignored Tang Shan's anger and came here to scold Tangua. Tangua ignored the two children because she didn't want to. She didn't want to waste her breath arguing with two children. That would make her seem childish. Not only childish, but it would also make people think that she was arguing with two children, which wouldn't be good for her current situation. Yun Dan and Yun Xian saw that Tangua kept her eyes down and didn't say a word. With victory in their eyes, they left proudly. Before they left, they gave a few more warnings. Let's go find father. I don't want a bride. She's not my mother. Yes, father will definitely not agree. Yun Dan and Yun Xian's voices reached Tangua's side, making her smile. Their father might disappoint them. Not only did he agree, but he might also find them a young mother in the future. Second Miss, young Master Dan and young Miss Xian are just children. Don't take it to heart. Tao who was beside her, quickly comforted her. She was afraid that Tangua would hold a grudge over this matter and treat the two children badly in the future. This was the task that Tang Shan assigned to her. It's also because Princess's illness suddenly worsened that scared them. That's why they came here today to talk nonsense. When they grow up in the future, they will be more sensible and understand princesses and your painstaking efforts. It was like this. It was Tao who kept brainwashing the original owner, saying that the two children were young and insensible. They also lost their mother and were very pitiful. That was why the original owner didn't take the two children's nonsense seriously. As a result, the two children never showed her any respect and even framed her everywhere. Just because they were pitiful and were children, they had countless protective halos. If Tao had spoken a few more words for the original owner, she wouldn't have been bullied like this. Tao was really doing her job for her elder sister. Tao, should I be scolded? Tangua's cold words stunned Tao. She didn't know how to answer for a moment. She lowered her head and didn't speak. Why aren't you answering? Is this question very difficult? This servant just thinks, you think they're still young? Tangwa smiled and said, yeah, they're still young. Since they're young, I won't argue with them. Tower's heart relaxed. The second young mistress was probably upset after being scolded just now, so she purposely made trouble for her. No matter what, she had to find a chance to talk to Wang Fei about this matter. As long as Wang Fei appeared, Second Miss would not have any resentment towards young Master Dan and young Miss Xian. Tangui used lunch break as an excuse, but in fact, she wanted to cultivate her internal strength. She wanted to become a top martial artist in this world as soon as possible so that she could protect herself. It would be more convenient for her to do anything. As for the pill formula, she would go out tomorrow and invite a doctor back to help make it. When the time came, he would take it out for Tang Shan to eat. Tang Shan was still breathing. Let her hang in there for now. Tower also had a chance to see Tang Shan and told her everything that had happened. After Tang Shan heard this, she fell into deep thought. After a while, she said, I'll take care of this matter. You go back and serve him first, in case my sister finds someone. Yes, Wang Fei. Tower respectfully withdrew. My sister must be angry with Tan and Xian for what they did today. When she wakes up, inform me. How can I be at ease with these two children? How can they treat my sister like this?